Well, hello everyone. This is Carrie back with How to Homeschool My Child. I am glad you're here. It is 6 o'clock, well, a minute till 6 o'clock, and I'm going to answer some questions about homeschool scheduling. Today our challenge was all about scheduling and some ideas about time management. I talked all about that this morning. I'm not going to go into that now, but I did talk about routines and schedules, daily schedules, weekly schedules, annual schedules, and then just talked about a little bit that I think is really important. A schedule only works if you are committed to it. And so I think that's some of it is we're not really as committed as we want to be, I think. And so we need to really think about, and if we're going to make a schedule, which I really think a routine is a better word for it, but if you're going to come up with a routine that works for you, you do need to sort of be committed to it for it to work. And I think that gives your kids boundaries that will help them to move forward. Now, if you have a question, leave it here in the comments and we will answer it. I've had a few questions submitted, so if I don't have any that y'all offer right now on this live, then I will just move on to the ones that were submitted. So if you have a question about scheduling and time management, leave it in the comments. Before I answer the questions, I just want to talk about work and homeschooling because I didn't get a chance to talk about that. It went a little too long this morning. But I think about work and homeschooling, and I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. Some people are working in their home and trying to homeschool. Some people are working out of their home. Some moms are single moms working full time and homeschooling. I would say one of the first things you need to consider is being creative and not being on that conveyor belt, hopping off that conveyor belt, and really thinking outside the box. Homeschooling doesn't have to be like, for me, I was a stay-at-home mom. I did work. I worked here at the house on the computer, but we homeschooled in the morning and then I could work in the afternoon. That's just what worked for us. I did work at home. I worked on our business. I worked on Steve's business. But for some of y'all, that's not possible. So what I would encourage you to do is just be creative. If you work for Tuesday and Wednesday, and then you've got to come back and Thursday and Friday have to homeschool, then think about what you could do. And I would think about the days that you're off at work and what can they do independently. And as I'm saying this, please leave any questions that you have and we'll talk about those. So that would be one thing I would say is be creative. Think about your schedule or your routine and be committed to it. If you are someone that is working and homeschooling, one of the best things I think you can do is block your times. And so you block your times, and those times and it may be you block a whole day for work and a whole day for homeschooling. And you might have to homeschool in the morning and the afternoon. One of the best things you can do for your kids during this time is to teach them to work independently. Even a 7-year-old can work independently. Short little activities, but that would be something that I would truly encourage you to do as well as far as comes to work. All right, let's talk about some ideas, some of my questions that came in about time management. So one of them was, if I'm using study units, like unit studies, and it's a mixture of books and curriculum and projects, how do I schedule that? And I would say you're not scheduling according to math and science and history and language arts or whatever it is. You are scheduling more about units. And that's a great way because I believe unit studies are real life learning. So what I would encourage you to do is, again, block off your time. Make it more of a routine. For us, when we were doing units, we could spend our family time, which was our first hour. It included our read aloud. And I would make our poetry or our art or our music or whatever centered on that unit. And we would be studying that unit. And that was always our first hour of the day. After that, the kids worked independently, and then I might work with them individually. So what I would do is, if we were doing units, I would have my kids working independently. Maybe they were writing, if we were studying, let's say, gardening, if we were doing that, we were writing a gardening, then in the morning, they would be doing their independent work after family time, and then at lunchtime, we would take a break. But I would not, someone's asking about unit studies, and if we're doing unit studies, that's just all mixed together. And I don't think you can just delineate out and say, at 9 o'clock we're going to do language arts, and at 10 o'clock we're going to do math, and 11 o'clock we're going to do our science and go out to the garden. I think it's just a combination, but I think it's important that your kids know what you expect of them so that when they are working independently, they understand what they are doing. And you will have to sort of organize the unit study, especially for young kids. If you have older children, I would encourage them to plan their own unit study and say this week from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock every day you're going to work on the unit that you did. Now, the thing I tended to do when I did unit studies, we did all of our more traditional, like paperwork, bookwork, studies, writing, reading, history, all in the morning. We did our projects in the afternoon when we could come here to the kitchen table and just throw it all out there and be a mess. Because for me, that was how I stayed sane. If we had mess all day long, I would have gone crazy. That's just me. So we fit our routine, our schedule around what our pros and cons, our strengths and weaknesses are. Is there one tried and true plan for just anybody to use? I would say not specifically, but generally there is, because I believe your plan is based on that one goal that you planned yesterday. The one goal that you wrote down, that ought to be the center of all your planning from now until May. And you need to always focus on that. So in that instance, yes, I think everyone needs to have a plan that's focused on their one goal. Does that mean it's going to look the same? No, because the routines are going to look the same, not the same. I have a friend, she's just not a morning person, so they don't start their homeschool till 10 or 11. And so that is how they work. I couldn't operate that way. But for some people, that's how it works. Some people homeschool in the afternoon. I had another friend, this was, 30 years ago. She would homeschool at night because she was a night person and she only had one child. And so that's what they would do. So I think you need to fit your schedule, your routine, your daily flow into what works best for you and your family. But I think as you plan, your plan needs to be centered on a few things. Your plan that you're planning, scheduling needs to be centered on what's that one goal you wrote yesterday in our challenge. That's the focus of everything. That's the priority. It may not be the focus of everything. That's a priority. Number two, where is God leading you in this plan? And he's going to take that goal that he's given you, and then he's going to give you ideas on how we implement that and what works best for your family. So you take your goal, you listen to God, and then think about what kind of person. Do you homeschool in the morning, the afternoon, the evening? Do you have a lot of outside activities? You work it around what your family's schedule is. And like I said, you're making a routine. This is more of a routine and a daily flow than a tight-fisted schedule. Let's see, and I already talked about work. Let's see if we have no more questions. Okay, this may be shorter than I thought. If you have a question about scheduling or time management in your home, please leave them there in your homeschool. I'd be happy to talk about them. I would like to close a little bit. One, we do have the daily challenge. I've listed that there. Leave a comment with your answers, and you can just put it on a little Post-it note. You're supposed to write today 3 subjects that you commit to do every day. We don't have to do every subject every day like I talked about this morning. The rest of them give you some grace, take the stress off, and if you don't feel like you have to do every subject every day, or you don't get to something, or your child's having a meltdown, you know what the primary thing is to do, and that's what we want to commit to. Write that down and leave that. We're having a prize at the end of the week, the Homeschool Planning Bootcamp prize. So every time you leave a Post-it note or you answer this in a comment, you are entered into our grand prize. And then the other, where is my thing? Oh, I lost it. The other, you're supposed to write the 3 days every day, and then what is the time you're going to start every day, and what are you going to start with? Whatever you start your homeschool day with is what is most important. And this morning I talked to you about that, about our read aloud, how that was most important. But everyone's different. Whatever is most important to you, you need to start your day with that and write a time down and about what time you will start. Super simple challenges. You can do this today and get another check. All right, now let me tell you one other thing. There is a bonus challenge. You'll have to listen to the morning video, but there is a bonus challenge that you can get another entry into our grand prize. So I think that is it. Let me see if there are any questions. No more questions. If you do, let me know. Tomorrow we'll be talking about organization. I will talk a little bit, maybe when we talk about home, I'm going to talk a little bit more about work as well, as I talked about it this earlier at the beginning of this video. Anyway, thanks for spending time with me. I'm Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child. Y'all have a great day.